Okay, so I hope you're ready to work on the code for the encryption devices. So this is quite a lot of code. Some bits a little bit tricky. I'll try to explain them as best I can as we get there. A lot of it's straightforward. There's just quite a lot of blocks involved. So as usual, I'm on the makecodemicrobit.org beta site, and I'm going to start with a new project. And once again, we don't need the forever block, and we do need to set up our radio group. And I'm just going to have group 5 this time, and that's going to be important that you use the same group on the next microbit when we get there. Okay, so we need some variables. So I'm going to make a variable, call this one key, and I'm going to make another one while I'm here. I'm calling it paws for position, and drag these out, put them into here. Change this one to pause for position. I'll just zoom in a bit there so you can see clearly. Now, this key is important. This is the one that is the secret code. So this is the number that your partner or the rest of your team needs to know to read, to decrypt your message. So I'm just going to put 2 in there for now, but later on you'll be changing that and making sure only you and your partner team know what the secret key is. And position you'll see later. That's more to do with the position we're in terms of the alphabet, where we are in the alphabet, but you're going to see that in a moment. So we've got our 2 variables. Now I'm making another variable, but this is going to turn into something different, and I'm going to call it text list. I'm not using a space, I'm using a capital L so we can see it's a different word. Text list. And I'm not going to drag that out of there. I'm actually going to do something new. If your advanced section is closed, click on that and come down to arrays. So if this is the first time you've heard of arrays, basically arrays are just a variable, but instead of being one word, one number, or one thing, this is for lists. You can see here it's talking about lists. We've got 1, 2, A, B, C. So it's one variable name and a whole list of items. And we actually want this one because we're going to be writing out the whole alphabet. So I'm going to drag that into there. And if you compare that, say, to okay, you don't have to do this. I'm just going to do this as an example and call it word. So don't do this, I'm just doing this to show you the difference. And if I had something like set word, and then I want to bring in a text box like this and say hello, well, I've just got one word here, just one thing, hello. I could, if I wanted to do A, B, C, D, but this is still just like one word really, and it's probably not going to like the commas either. Whereas this one, we've taken A, B, C and put it into a list. So let's get rid of that, and then I'm going to press this 23 times. So if you lose track, it doesn't matter, you can add a few more on later. and because it runs out of space it jumps down. I think I've already lost track, don't know how many that is. Just going to keep going because we need to fill in the whole alphabet of 26 letters. Okay, don't know how far I've got. Let's just try A, B, C, D, E, and I'm using the tab key on the keyboard to jump between them so I don't have to click each time. J, K, L, M, N, O, and Q, R, S, T, and B, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. U, V, W, X, and Z. So there's the full alphabet written out there. So this is the difference between our usual variables and an array. We can hold a whole list of items. Here it's just letters, these could be words, or we could have it for numbers. Okay, so we've got that set up, and next we're going to move on to selecting the letter so that we can send a message. So we want to go to input, and I'll have button A pressed, and here on our microbit, button A is going to move left, take us back through the alphabet. Button B is going to take us forward, and that's where our paws variable comes in. It's tracking which position we are in the alphabet. So I'm going to go into variables, and when I press button A I want to change that pos, and because I'm going to go backwards I'm going to go -1. Let's come over there, -1. Now because I'm going backwards we have to do something here. If I was on, say, the letter E, and then I press A and I'm going back D, C, B, A, when I go back from A, well, there are no letters there. What I want to happen is if I go backwards from A, it goes around to Z. So we need to put something in there to check if we are at this position on A. So when we're checking something, normally we want to use an if to see if something is true, and then going to be using these equals, and the thing that I want to check is if my variable pos, so 0 would mean I'm on A, but if I've gone back, then 0 minus 1 is equal to -1. So if I've gone back before A, then I need to tell it to jump all the way to this position, Z. So I'm going to be setting pos to the last position. Now we know there are 26 letters, but this is not 26. Because we're starting on 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, by the time we get up to Z, we're actually only on 25. So one very important thing to remember, an array, the first one is position 0. It starts counting from 0. So if I've gone back before A to get to the last position, that's position 25. So it's one less than the number of things you have. If I only had A, I would have one thing, but my position would still be 0. That's a bit confusing, and it still confuses me even after years. You just sometimes end up making a mistake and realizing, oh no, I have to subtract 1 or I'll have to count through 0, 1, 2, 3 like that to double check. So if that's confusing, don't worry too much, that's normal. So this part just deals with if we've gone before A. Otherwise, we want to show the letter that we are on. And to do that, under Basic, and I'm going to show the string, and the string that I want to show is the letter from the array in this position. To do that, we go back to arrays, and we want to get the value here from our list. So I'll put that in there. There we go. And remember, our list was this one, text list. Let me just double check. For some reason it's put a space in there. Let's change it. Text list should be like this. So you may have to check yours. But whatever you have, this should be the same name as here. So I want to show whichever letter at whichever position. So I'm going to go to my variables and put my position in there. So as I'm counting through these, if it's position 1, position 2, it's going to show the string at that position. And should be able to test that. If I go back, you see we've gone to Z. So because we're starting at position A, I could even, if I duplicate that, I'll put that down. Well, put that down here. So the first thing we'll see is A, because we're starting off in position 0, which is this one. Now I don't have this button working yet, but if I go backwards, this part of the code, it knows, oh, you've gone from 0, -1, we're on -1, so let's jump to 25, which is this one, which is Z. And then as I go back, so we're going backwards through the alphabet. So this is our system for selecting those letters. But we don't just want to go backwards, we want to be able to go forwards. So we'll work on the B button. Okay, let's start. I was going to cheat and just duplicate, but I'll talk you through it again. So we're going to use on button B pressed, and a lot of it is similar, not exactly the same. So we're going to be changing our position, change paws, but we're moving forward, so it's by 1. Now we have the same problem as before. If we've reached Z and we go forward, there are no more letters, so we want to go back to the beginning to A. So we want a similar thing as here. So I'm getting my if, and then I'm going to check if something is equal to something else, and I want to know if my position, so if it was on here, that's position 25, and if I go forward, then I'm position 26. So if I've gone to position 26, this doesn't exist, so I need to go back round to the beginning. So I'm going to set pause to 0. So if I've gone past the list, then I'm going back to 0. And like before, I'm going to show that on the display. So I'm going to show string, and I'm using my array, and I'm going to get a value. I'm getting something from the list. Oh, that in there. And my list name is text list. and like before I want the value from position. Okay, so now we can test button B. So I can go up, E, F, G, and I can go down, and if I get to A, whoops, so if I'm on A and I go back one, it jumps to Z and keep going back, but if I get up to Z and I go forward, it goes around to A. So that's what these two if conditions are doing. They're sending us back to the end or back to the beginning, depending on which way we're going. So we have these which are controlling our display and letting us choose our letter. And next we want to send that. We need to send that letter to whoever we want to pick up the message. So I need another input, and I'm going to use the A plus B to send. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So what am I actually sending? I'm not sending the letter. That's the whole point of this device and encryption. If I just send the letter, I choose A and I send A, anyone listening, so anyone who is on our channel, group 5, could pick up that I've sent a letter A, and they're going to work out the message I'm sending. What I actually want to do is to encrypt my message first. So how do I do that? I need a new variable. I'm going to make this variable, and I'm going to call it code paws for code position. And just back here, I'm just going to probably set that to 0 there, though it doesn't matter too much, so because it's going to get changed here. So I'm going to set it again here, and this code position is going to be the position of the letter plus the key. So if I wanted to send A, my key is 2. I won't be sending A, I'll be sending 2 forward. B, C, I will be sending C. So whatever my position was, which is the actual letter, I'm using this key, adding 2, and I will send this. So anyone receiving C, because they don't know the key, will have no idea what actual letter I was sending. Okay, I'm going to try and explain that again later. For now, let's try and get the code done. So I'm going to go to math and plus, and I want to be adding 2 things, is my position and the key. So in this example, A, position is 0, key was 2, so I'll actually be sending the number 2. Now we have another thing that we need to check here, otherwise it'll all go wrong. If, for example, I was needed to send Z, now that's position 25. If I send position 25 plus 2, 26, 27, well, position 27 doesn't exist. Just like here, we have to loop round again. I can't send anything bigger than position 25. So let's put another if statement in. And this time I'm going to be using either of these, because we're going to have to change it, and I'm going to change it to the greater than sign. And what I'm doing is checking my code position. So if this code position, well, there you go. If this code position has gone past 25, because that's our last position here, if it's gone past that, then I need to loop it back round to the beginning. And one way of doing that, I'm going to set this code position to, and we're going to use the minus symbol here and get another code pos, and I'm going to subtract 26, and this is where it's easy to get confused. 26 because there are 26 letters, but 25 because this is position 25 because it starts on 0. So say we were on Z and our key is 2, so I've gone to 26, 27. 27 doesn't exist, but 27 minus 26 is 1, and position 1, it's not A, that's 0, position 1 is B. So I'd actually be sending the letter B. So if I'm on Z and I go forward 2 by looping round, forward 1 would be A, forward 2 would be B. So this block here is checking, have we gone past the last position? And if we have, subtract 26 because there's 26 letters, and it lands us back at the right position. Okay, that's confusing. If you're following that, well done. If not, try not to worry. This part of the code is difficult. Try and focus on some of the other parts of the code, like this part and the part that's coming next. So we've got our code position. This is what we're going to send, but we haven't sent it yet. So to send, we need to go to radio, and radio send number, and what we're sending is this code position. So I'm gonna get that, and that's the thing that I want to send. And last thing for this part, so that you know it is sent, we're just going to display an icon like the tick, and that tells you, the user, yes, that has been sent. Okay, one last little bit that's much easier than that. If you're sending your message, so you're sending the letters, if you send the wrong letter, we need a way of deleting that. To delete it, we need to tell the person we're sending it to, whoops, ignore that last one, remove the last one. So to do that, I'm going to use the shake block, and we're going to send a number. No special code this time. I'm just picking 999 because that's a big number that wouldn't be used in the code. And when the other person receives 999, they know you made a mistake and to delete the last letter. And so that you know that has been sent, I'm going to show an icon and we'll show a cross, so you know you've sent a signal to delete the last letter. Okay, that's all the code for the first microbit. That's the one that you use to send the message. So if it's your first time with arrays, they're very common, very useful. It's just a variable where you can keep many things. Doesn't just have to be single letters, can be whole words, or can be numbers. So arrays are for keeping a whole list. And I'm sorry about these bits that deal with looping back to the start and the end. I know that's tricky, but if we don't have that, then if you try to go before A or after Z, we'll get an error. We could just stop it so you're not allowed to press past that, but it's kind of handy to loop through. If you've just sent the letter V and then you need to go back round to something like E, instead of going back all that way, you can think, oh, if I just go forward past Z, then A, B, C, that's a quicker way to get round to the start of the alphabet. So if you've followed those bits about looping round, well done. If not, don't worry too much. Try and get this code done, and then we'll work on the second microbit to receive the code, and there's not quite as much to do on that one. Don't forget to save it, and I'll see you in part 2. Hello, welcome to part 2. This is where we're going to make the receiver, the device that does the decryption, that works out what the message is. I hope you weren't too scared off by the first video that had some tricky bits in. But once they're made, you can have some fun sending secret messages to your friends. So again, we don't need forever. Well, let me get rid of that. But of course we do need to set our radio group. Now this is actually another part of the whole encryption thing, really. If someone isn't in your group, then there's no way they can receive your message. But if that was the only thing you did to hide your message, it would be quite easy for someone to find out which group you're in, because they could check every group. I know that there's it goes up to 255, but that wouldn't take too long. You could write a little program using a loop. You could loop through, repeat, and listen out to see if any messages are received, and find out what group someone is using. So that's not enough encryption. Okay, so we set up our group, and that should be the same as the one your friend is using, and I think we had 5 in the last video. And this first part is actually exactly the same as the first video. We want a key. This is the really important bit. This is the second secret part that you would have. I'm just using the number 2. Remember, we had the key of 2 last time, and that bit should be secret. So in real life, these secret keys are massively huge numbers. We probably can't deal with that, so we're just going to keep it simple. So it's more for an example, but does actually work as an encryption device. It's still kind of tricky for someone to break the encryption. So we're starting off with 2, and like before, we also need our paws for position, which position we are in the alphabet, and we'll start off with position 0. And like before, we're going to need this array that I'm calling text list, like that, without a space. And to put that in, I'm going to go to the array and choose it here. I don't know why it seems to have changed it and put a space in, so it seems to have done something automatic. I noticed that before. You never would have a space in a variable name, usually in programming. Let me just have a look. I'm just going to jump into the JavaScript. Don't panic. What they've done, they've used an underscore there, because you can't have a space in a variable name in most programming languages, or any that I know of. So yeah, I don't know why they've done that automatically, but I'm going to use this one that I'm set up with the capital letter, no space. Okay, so now we need to set up the whole alphabet. So there's lots and lots of clicking. Don't know if there's a faster way to add lots of elements to an array. Don't know how many that is. Let's go start filling it in and see. So it's already done ABC for us. D, E, F. Remember, you can use the tab key to jump between the boxes rather than rather than having to click every time. O, P, Q, R, S, T, U. So we're going to need a few more. V, W, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. So there we have our text list array of the whole alphabet, exactly the same as we had before. Now, next we're not going to be sending anything, so we are not using an input. We're going to use the radio, and we're listening out for a number. Remember, the other microbit is going to be sending us a number, which is the code position. So I'm listening out for a number, and the first thing I want to do with that number is to check if it's supposed to be a letter or if we're deleting. If you remember, we had shake to send a message to say delete. So I'm going to use if else, and I'm going to check equals, and I want to know what this received number is. So find that under variables. And do you remember we put 999? So if it's 999, that was the signal to say, whoops, I sent the wrong letter, delete. So if I get that, we're going to show the icon cross. So if you're the person receiving and a cross comes up, whatever letter you had before, you need to delete that was sent by mistake. So first we check if we're supposed to delete. Now if we're not deleting, then we need to work out, okay, what letter have they sent? So first I need to find out what position am I supposed to be in. So we're going to go to math and subtract, and try and think back to the last video. To set the secret letter, we use this key. So if I want to send A, 2 means I'm adding 2. I've actually sent C. So this is position 0, 1, 2. So I want to send 0, but I'm actually sending 2. So whatever your received number, put that in there, whatever your received number is, say it's 2, I need to subtract, I need to go back by the key, because your key and your friend's key needs to be the same. So let's go back to here. So my friend wanted to send A, which would be position 0. Using their key, they add on 2, 1, 2. They're sending C, position 2. You've received 2, but if you show the letter C, that was wrong. You'll be showing the wrong letter. You need to go back 2, subtract 2. So it's basically whatever was added on when it was sent, you're subtracting. So now we've got to the correct position, the correct letter, but we still have that problem. Imagine my friend was sending letter, you received B, you received 1, and then you subtract 2, 1, 2, well, there is nothing before A, so we're going to have a problem. We need another check. If we've gone less than A, less than position 0, we have to jump back around to the end. So it's these check bits that I know make it a little bit tricky. So let's get another if. Make sure you're going not there, but inside this else, if. And the thing we want to know, under logic, if our number, our position, has gone less than 0, if we've gone less than A, then something's gone wrong. That's when we know we need to loop back round. So if it has gone less than A, I'm going to be changing the position, and I'm going to set that position to, and this is kind of the opposite of what we did before. Oops, change that to paws. So if it's gone less than A, I'm going to add on 26 because there's 26 letters. So let me fill that in. So imagine I was on B, I received 1, position 1. And using the key I need to go back to 1, 2. Now I'm in position -1. Well, there's no letter in -1. But if I add on 26, because there's 26 letters, then -1 plus 26 is 25. So I actually want letter Z, which works out because if I was on Z and I want to send it, and I add on 2, then Z goes to A, B. I know that's difficult. If you're following, great. If you've got lost, then don't worry too much about that bit for now. Just know this block of code helps us to loop back round if we've gone too low, if we've gone before the letter A. Okay, so we've dealt with that. So we've got our correct position. So this whole section here is doing our decoding. We've received the number. We've used our key to decode to get to the original position. My friend took their position, added 2. I've received that new position, and -2. So the last thing, I want to actually show the letter. Let's go to show string, and this is going, let me get this in the right place. Yep, this is going in here, still part of this else block. So I'm going to show the string, and I need to get it from the array, and get the value. I'm going to go in there, remember text list, like that, and I want to get the value at the position. So get that from variables. So I've worked out what my position should be by subtracting the key and checking if I've gone off the alphabet, if I've gone too low, and dealing with that. And finally, this should show the original letter that your friend sent. Okay, it's gonna be hard just to understand all of that by looking at the code. The easiest way is to set it up and get using it, sending messages back and forth, and remembering and thinking about what's actually happening in the code. Okay, I hope you've managed to follow along, so don't forget to save that and download it, and have fun sending secret messages to your friends.